And can we move on to item 4, proposed rules for Traffic Safety Commission? Don't have a big deal.
Okay. Get this one here. Continuing to this item, recommended action is to, we're proposing to continue the item until after the City Council considers Carlsbad Municipal Code amendments related to Traffic Safety Commission's role and duties. The reason for that, I believe Amanda can explain a little bit better than I can in a legalistic point of view, and I will refer to her to the.
So this item, do we have a slide on?
No, there's just a title change.
This item was agendized per Commissioner Linke's request. He prepared some draft rules for the Commission's consideration. The Commission has the ability to adopt supplemental rules and regulations under Chapter 2.15. Under that chapter, it is a process that requires the city clerk's input. So once the Commission adopts by majority motion a set of rules and regulations it's happy with, then it should be forwarded to the city clerk for their input, and then staff would bring it back for final adoption. In working with staff on this item, because of where we're at with the municipal code amendments process, it may be best for the Commission to delay consideration of this until those amendments are adopted. Simply because anything in the rules and regulations that reflects the draft code amendments that you just approved by motion, those aren't adopted yet. So what is in the municipal code right now would need to be reflected in your rules and regulations. So anything, for example, referencing items that go to the Planning Commission, those could work potentially with the municipal code amendments you want council to adopt, but they don't correlate to the current code with respect to the TSC. So you certainly can discuss this item, but in terms of taking action, there are probably areas that will create issues on the back end. When we work with the city clerk, it'll probably be more work at this point in time, given where we're at with the code amendment process.
Commissioner Linke, do you have what's your thought process on your recommendation?
So I think the only thing in this set of rules and regulations that hasn't any question about would be the reference to the Planning Commission, and we could just strike those references to the Planning Commission, and to me it's all just procedural items. I've prepared the rationale for them very briefly. We know that there are many items that take a long time to get done. So, for example, I put within a reasonable time of such action in the rules to, basically try to create some reasonable amount of time that things come back to us. I have a list here: the Palomar Airport Road, Melrose Drive, trap lane striping, which has been an ongoing item since December 2018.
July 2018.
Okay, July, I didn't go back far enough. Traffic congestion on northbound El Camino Real between College and Cannon, which was brought up by Commissioner Hunter in January, and staff promised to return with information. The Grand Promenade project, which was raised by Commissioner Hunter in March, which the commission voted to ask staff to bring back information, 6-0. Roundabouts in the development in the northeast part of Carlsbad, raised by Commissioner Perez in April, and staff promised to return for information. And we voted on an RV bump out ordinance raised by Commissioner Hunter. So there's a long list of things that are on we've requested to come back, and it's just like, as long as we don't, well, Commissioner Hunter does keep bringing up the one, but which is related to another thing I put into the proposed rules and regulations, is that the staff liaison maintain like a work list of here are the items that we've taken action on. And I think You brought that up too at some point. So I put it in there to maintain a work list, and then we check things off as they're done, report back to us on the council. So each meeting, one of the pages of the staff report would be an update on the work list, so we can see what's been backlogged, because I think we forget about things and then they just never happen. Agendas, packets, and public records. There are some issues with the public records. In March, we voted to approve minutes that we made revisions to, because the original version didn't include our discussion on being bypassed by items of business. And what appears though in the public records system is the version that didn't include those updates. So our permanent public record has the wrong set of minutes, the ones that was presented without the corrections. There's also as I understand it, every document that's presented to the commission either before or during the meeting, including presentations and correspondence from commissioners and the public, should be made part of the public record. Several of those documents are missing. So I just want to be very systematic in saying that these are the things that need to go into the public record. I've spoken with a few of the city council members, and they've expressed frustration that they don't know more about what's being discussed on all their advisory boards and commission based on reading the minutes. So we've been told that our minutes are a way to communicate with the city council, but then we're also told the minutes need to be as brief as possible. And so I just want to try to set some guidelines on the minutes, should reflect our full discussion so that we're transferring information to the decision makers. And so rather than just being very brief and just recording votes. So that's the type of thing that I have in there. Hopefully people have had a chance to look at it and the rationale. I think other than my reference to the planning commission, nothing has to do with our municipal code update or work plan. And I'd really like to see the city clerk look at it. If anyone has anything they want to add, that'd be great. If the rest of the commission thinks they want to wait, that's also okay, but the sooner the better. I think we get this rolling.
I just realized nobody said anything about the name, so from now on, we're Traffic and Mobility Commission?
Well, the code goes forward and then it has to be approved.
I know, I'm just saying that we didn't have any comments. I'm
I
fine.
thought it was a good name.
But, yeah, so
That was okay.
TMC from now on.
TSC?
TMC, until it gets approved. With that said, what comments do we have on Commissioner's Linkies?
Well, I really appreciate keeping a list of past references and assignments that we had to the staff to comment, because if it wasn't for people like Commissioner Hunter remembering, or as you become more experienced in it and you remember something that you brought up, that's the only reference that we have to see in the government. In the federal government, we just have action items and then a follow-up list of action items in each minute or each agenda item, just as a reference. So I really like that idea.
When is the city council going to consider the municipal code amendment that we just did?
So I don't know if
August 20, that's what she said.
August 20th.
Yeah.
August 20th, okay. So by continuing this item until after that, it would be September at the earliest that we would talk about this.
However, I do believe in the current code, it does have in one of the paragraphs that say that we can establish, each commission can establish their own rules and procedures.
in chapter 2.15,
Yeah,
correct? It's
correct.
just it's in conjunction with the city clerk.
Right, so most of what you brought, except for the planning commission, I think is still legal valid.
So there are a couple comments I'd like to make. So our office has not performed a detailed review of the proposed rules and regulations. We need some additional time to do that. One concern I have is there are numerous places where it creates a mandatory duty of staff to perform some act. And if you look at the prior version of the TSC's rules that were an attachment to this item, you'll notice that it does have items that, or actions staff will undertake, but it is, staff will endeavor, staff will attempt, they are not mandatory duties. In chapter 2.15, it expressly states that staff that act as liaisons to the boards and commissions, they don't act the will of the commissions. They're not the staff of the boards and commissions. They serve to facilitate the meetings and to ensure that the work plans, once adopted, are undertaken, but I think there will be concerns with several areas in here where, for example, on these 7 calendar days prior to the meeting, staff shall post the agenda packet. That's not legally required, it's a 72-hour posting requirement under the Brown Act, so that would be creating an additional requirement of staff that they go above and beyond what are the state's legal requirements. And that's one example of a handful that I've noticed from the review I have been able to perform. So I would ask that if the commission does move to forward this to the clerk tonight, part of the motion expressly states that an understanding that legal review will be conducted as part of that process, because there will likely be sections that our office recommends be removed or amended to be, for example, permissive, using the word may versus shall. Because I do think there would be conflict with the code with some of these sections.
And just to be clear, this was meant to be like a first step in a collaboration with staff on, this is sort of the ideal situation, but, staff should certainly say, this isn't possible because of this, and I'm not aggressively saying we need to do this exact thing. It was meant just to be as a first draft with staff feedback.
So an alternative is the commission could request that staff perform a review and bring it back to a date certain. So it is a request to staff, but ask for staff's commitment to bring it back to a TSC meeting in the future. And as part of that, they would certainly bring in our office as part of that review. So that would be an alternative.
When you say future, is that possible next month?
So
Based on the current workload and what I'm already committed to do in the next month, the earliest would be 2 months out, if not more.
Well, 2 months puts us right after the city council's continuation of the amendment, so that timing kind of dovetails.
And then if we just do it for legal review?
yeah, I think it'll be twofold. I think there's some things in here that will involve policy calls from the department, because, for example, the 7 calendar days prior to the meeting, that could end up being a policy call for staff, whether they want to commit themselves to that or not. But there are going to be, I believe, some legal issues as well that our office can flag for you as part of a future discussion. So what we could do is have this version as an exhibit, and like with the code amendments, have another version that provides our review and explain as we go through why certain things may have been changed, so that you have that information at your disposal when you come back.
I'll make a motion, we continue the item until September, along with review from both staff and legal and other staff as required.
So I would say the motion is to request that staff return with their review of the item versus continuing the item, so.
Oh, well,
You
the
don't have-
recommended action is continue the item, so I was just reading from what the.
Understood, yeah,
What
we're tweaking it though. I think at this point you're requesting, it sounds like requesting that staff review the proposed rules
But also continue the item in the September.
and return,
And
yes,
return
yeah.
with it, yeah, correct. So it doesn't go away.
Right.
Okay.
Can't we say as soon as they're practical for them?
Well, that could put it past September if you want, if you're willing, because it's not gonna happen.
We have 4 or 5 other items that are supposed to bring back.
So if you wanna,
All right.
you're the one who wanted it done right now, so if you wanna make it
Can we
as practical,
prioritize?
your choice,
That instead of the other 4 items?
or we're gonna leave it September.
I mean, it's a request to
It's a
staff, so it's
request.
like.
Yes, it is, again, I'm looking at,
Shall,
we have a couple of new people, one new person coming in our group, and also looking at other requests that have been made, not from the commission, from the department that we are looking at, as well as planning and the community development for traffic studies that we have to review. And basically, the staff that we're talking about is 1 or 2 people. We're not looking at 24 staff that
But
we
that's what it
can.
sounds, when we say staff, we don't have.
All right, September or.
That's reasonable to-
As soon as is reasonable,
Okay.
because you may find something in there, so we'll incorporate it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Any comments? No? Good.
Bill?
Please note it passed unanimously with Commissioner Pensier being absent.
Okay. Now, we might be able to celebrate Doug soon.
Okay.
Are we at-
Celebrate Doug.
Only if he promises to come back every meeting we have. Because I think it's just the comfort, him being here. I still look at him for approval sometimes.